Hello everyone, welcome to 12am coding. So today in this particular tutorial we will be discussing about a important annotation, and actually it's not a annotation, it's a concept actually in Spring Boot, which is profiling. Okay, so in this particular tutorial I'll be going to show you the use of @profile, but these tutorials will be series, like some series of tutorials in which we will be discussing about profiling and how we can use it in our project. Okay, so what does this profiling means is, let's say when we work on the real time project in industry, then what happens that we are having multiple places where our application is deployed. For example, you are having, let's say, three environments actually, three environments or three regions. For example, this is for uh, dev region. Okay, this particular is dev region. This is on QA. Okay, for the QA or testing, this is there. And third region will be production. So what we want to do, that let's say you are having one variable into your code. Let's say I'm just giving example, let's say name. Okay, and this name can be different, like this can be different according to the profile. Like this will be the name in the dev profile. Here, this will be the name in QA profile. Okay, and this will be the name in prod profile actually. Okay, so this name will be prod one. Okay, so what we need to do is that while these applications are running into the remote servers, then what is the thing that it should read this particular name from development, it should read that name from QA, and it should read that name for prod profile actually. Okay, so what does this means? That if I like, if you talk about a, let's say we hard code it, right? So what we need to do, that inside the dev, like we need to create one file which will be in the development region, and there we need to define the name in the development format, whatever we need. For the QA, we need into the QA, so we need to define a file in which it will be in QA. So it's not a good approach, right? We are just making these things complicated, and we are just using multiple time which we don't need. So what we can do, rather than using this name three places, we can keep it into the profile actually. We can define the profile that at the time of QA, take this particular name. At the time of development, take this particular name. At the time of prod, take this particular name. And that we can define using the configurations actually. So I think this idea is bit clear, that if our application is running into different regions, then via profile you can define the configuration into your system. Okay, so let me tell you a example of first this @profile annotation. Okay, and then we will be seeing it in deeper way. Okay, so for example, I am having this particular simple application. It is have like, it is not having anything right now. It is just we are having this Spring Boot application. So what I will do, first of all, I'll be setting one Spring profile active property. Okay, and this profile active property, let's say my application is running in dev environment. Okay, so I just define as a dev. This name you can give anything, like anything, any name you can give. It is for our convenience. Okay, so what I'm going to do, that I am going to create one interface. Okay, fruit interface, and in this interface I'm going to define a function which is, let's say, taste, and this is returning a string. Now I'm going to create two files, which is fruit dev. It is for the development, it will also implement fruit. Okay, and let me give the implementation of that taste method, and this will be fruit from dev. Okay, or tasty fruit from dev. Then second thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more class which is fruit prod. Okay, and this class will also be implementing our fruit interface. Okay, and let me implement that taste method, and this will be returning tasty fruit from prod. Okay, and this is returning from dev actually. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create or like first let me define it as a component, so that our Spring Boot will put the bean into application context. So we have read about this at the rate component annotation in very detailed from format in our older videos, so you guys can go and check. Okay, so the thing I'm going to do is let's say I just keep this at the rate component here and at the rate component on both the classes so that they will be um, provided as a bean into application context and we can use it anytime. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to define one more annotation which is at the rate profile, and it is I'm giving it as dev here. Okay, in the development class. In the production class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a profile as prod. Okay, like what this profile means, that it will tell the Spring Boot that whenever the profile is prod, then only create the bean of this particular class. In this case, if the profile is dev, then only create the bean of this fruit dev. Okay, so I'll be showing you the example how it works. So let's say we are having fruit controller, and in this fruit controller, let me provide the REST controller, and let me create one API. Okay, which is get mapping simply, and this will be doing public, and then a string it will be returning, and then taste, let's say, or let's say fruit method it is, and it will return something. Okay, what something it will return is, now let me do one thing, let me auto-wire our fruit class. Okay, auto-wire our fruit interface actually. So what we are going to do is, like, I am just going to return this taste method. Okay, and this is defined into this interface, and we have provide the implementation into the fruit dev class and fruit prod class, and both of the classes is annotated with at the rate profile for the prod and for dev. Okay, so I haven't explicitly created the new object of this dev or prod. I just define by default, like, let's see what it will take and then what it will return. And what I've done in the application property, we have defined this dev as a profile active. So let me run this Spring Boot application and let's see what will be returning. So if we go here and if we refresh this, then it is saying tasty fruit from dev. So what I mean to say is that in the controller you define at the rate autowire fruit, but it automatically pick the dev profile class. Why? Because in our application properties we have defined that the application active profile is dev. For example, if I change it to prod, then I rerun my application, then it should take the prod profile class. Okay, so if I refresh it, it became prod. So it is coming from the prod, it was coming from the dev. So I think it is making sense this at the rate profile. So this is the one way actually you can use at the rate profile to initialize your class or to create the bean of your class when your Spring Boot runs based on the profiling. Okay, so this happens actually. For example, like, I'm just giving you a simple example. Let's say you are scheduling one function. Okay, one function is there. Okay, and you want to schedule it. Okay, but the thing is that this scheduling you don't want to do in dev actually, because scheduling means that you want to run this particular function. You are making this function for the prod and you want to run at 10 p.m. every day. Okay, but into the dev we don't need to run 10 p.m. because let's say our testing has happened, so it doesn't make any sense. Then what you can do in the production actually, you can run this particular. Okay, so what does it means that you can simply create one schedule class. So I have used it into the project like that, that is schedule class, and this particular, or let's say schedule controller or scheduler, anything, right? And then what you can do, you can annotate it with at the rate profile and you can provide prod here. Okay, so what does it means that this particular scheduling, okay, it will be running, and you can use a cron expression actually. So in our later tutorial we will be discussing about this schedule also. It's a very good concept in Spring Boot. In other frameworks also it's there, but Spring Boot provide a very flexible way to inject the scheduling. Okay, so if I defining the prod, then this particular schedules will run only in case of production. And in the case of production, we can define our active profile as prod so that this schedule will run. So this is the very, very good example of using at the rate profile. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this particular tutorial, and we will be seeing about the file, actually in the file, how you can define the profiling in the next tutorial, so that this particular example will make sense, that some variables are there into the classes we use, right? So those variables we can pick it from the files, and different files we can create for different profile. So yeah guys, that's it for this particular tutorial. If you like this particular tutorial, then definitely share with your friends, like the video and subscribe the channel. So thank you. See you in the next tutorial.